always come in, and they do it and they disguise it under the ability, we're going to make it better for you. We're going to take care of you. Does that sound like anybody we know? We're going to do all this. We're going to bring these things that's going to make it better. We should fight that. We have to sacrifice some security for liberty. And part of the issue is that we need to be able to say no to people that want to give us something in exchange. And we have had a hard time doing that. Even Republican legislators have had a hard time doing that. That doesn't mean that things aren't going to be tough. Sometimes things can be tough. But the absolute last thing we can do is allow the government, no matter where it's the municipal government, or the federal government, or the state government, to take our property away from us. And that's what Agenda 21 is all about. Thank you.
Dave, you get to start on this one. How will you stand out as a conservative in Austin if you get elected?
I think you have to go back to what I said earlier about the courage of conviction. You have to learn to live within your means. Those people who live in my neighborhood know that I have 2 blue recycle bins. Does that make me more conservative? Some people might say make me green. But I think it goes back to building a business and raising a fine family. You know, if you have a problem, you make it a procedure. Conservatism is my thought of management. 20% is thinking of an idea, and 80% is follow-up. If we have a program that we don't need to be spending money on, why do we give way to special interest groups and do things that are not in the best interest of the taxpayer? If, as an insurance agent, my job is to collect premiums to pay for claims. And my job as a state rep is to collect taxes to pay for services. But the services that are provided by the state of Texas need to be reevaluated on every aspect.
You know, how someone sets himself apart in this world is generally done on how they lead. I'm a very close friend of John Maxwell, who is the premier author on leadership. John and I have had many late-night conversations and many times that we spent together on what does it mean to be a leader. And leader is simply influence, and that's what I plan to do in Austin. I plan to be able to be a leader. I know some people say, well, you're going to be a freshman and all that, but you know what? I don't have time to worry about that. What I want to do is lead through ideas and lead through influence. And my values are conservative. You look at the people that have endorsed me, the organizations like Texas for Fiscal Responsibility, Young Conservatives of Texas, they know that I'm a conservative, and I'm not going to move towards people. I hope to be able to influence, to move people towards my positions.
Will you read it one more time?
Mike, how will you stand out as a conservative in Austin if you get elected?
Thank you for reading that again. I appreciate that. My feelings are this. We are giving up, like the frog that gets in the warm water, our freedom, our liberty, and our free enterprise system slowly all the time. The fact that we can pass a health law in Washington that infringes on our freedom as much as it does bothers me. So first and foremost, the thing I'm concerned about most is our freedom, our liberty, and the free enterprise system. I think every law that's passed has to be viewed as whether or not it promotes those things or interferes with those things. If it promotes it, it may be good. And if it interferes with it, then it's bad. And I know I'm running for an office where I would be elected as a lawmaker. But I think there's so many laws. Look, every time we want to do something, we say, oh, let's pass a law. And we ought to be thinking about what laws need to go away. I'd like to go to Austin and be perhaps an unlawmaker.
Okay, Ron, this one goes to you. If you were elected, would you support a ban on any further installation of smart meters and allow those with smart meters that don't want them to get a different electric meter?
Absolutely, yes. I mean, again, that should be something that you choose whether you want to have it or not. And I don't think the state or the federal government or any of us should be funding programs in which people are not comfortable with, and unless everything's been fully vetted. And this has not been fully vetted in my opinion. So I would absolutely support a ban on continuing those, especially without the election of the individual user.
For me? Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know enough about this, but this is what I fear. The Big Brother is being attached to the outside of my wall and starts to know all of my activities beyond my electrical use. I don't like it. I think it ought to be done away with. If people want to put that on, then I say they should have it. But we should have the right not to have our privacy infringed by such a meter. That's my position.
A utility is a utility. If you're going to have smart meters, let's put it in the water. Then they know what you're doing. Now, I mean, it's not the federal or the state government's responsibility to subsidize projects for profit corporations.
Thank you, gentlemen. This question goes to Mike first. Mike, are you affiliated with a religious institution, and if so, what role do you play in your church?
Let's see, I am a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I've been a member of that church, sometimes called the Mormons. The same church has been around me. I served a 2-year mission when I was younger. I served a second 2-year mission shortly after that. I served as a bishop, non-salaried, which leads a congregation for 7 years. I currently have been called by my church to teach an addiction recovery program for men that are suffering from the addictions of pornography. I'm a tithe payer in my church. So I could probably list lots of other things and bore you to death, but I'm very, very active in my church, and I'm a strong believer in the power of heaven, as I've mentioned before.
I am a cradle Catholic and attend St. Catherine of Siena Catholic Church. At one time, even had my mother was a church secretary at the Catholic Church, and Father used to give her the extra host because I used to play Mass, and I was a pretty good sermon giver, actually. So I'm cradle Catholic, been very involved, been on the parish council as many other committees. So faith is very important to me. I like to say I'm a practicing Catholic, which means you do go to Mass.
I'm a Baptist, at least a recovering Baptist, but I'm still a Baptist. Our family's been Baptist for 300 years, so it's finally sinking in. We go to Prestonwood. Lisa and I currently co-teach in the young married area, where we teach young married couples that are in their 20s and 30s. We've held many different positions. Lisa is a continual Bible study leader. I've been on mission trips. I've taught biblical-based leadership training around the world in 3 different countries. And faith is very, very important to us. And as I mentioned earlier, something that guides our decisions that we make in our family.
All right, so we go to Dave. Your turn. Where do you stand on abortion and gay marriage?
I'm very pro-life, always have been. I think, speaking as a cradle Catholic, that goes without saying. Marriage is a religious institution. It is between one man and one woman. End of question.
Well, we believe in birth at conception. Also believe that unborn children should have the same rights as you and I. And they're children just like you and I are living human beings as they are. I'm the only candidate up here that's been endorsed by the Texas Alliance for Life. And Lisa serves on the Lifesavers Foundation, which supports pregnancy centers and domestic violence centers. So I'm very much pro-life. As far as gay marriage, absolutely, I believe that's wrong. It's between a man and a woman, and there's no argument on that, in my opinion.
I'm pro-life. I believe in the sanctity of life. I believe that life forms in the womb, and that individual in the womb deserves all the rights of any citizen in this United States. I believe that terminating that life is murder. So I guess that's pretty clear. In regard to marriage was ordained of God as between a man and a woman, and I think that's the perfect definition, and it should never change. I have marched on Capitol Hill and rallied for the passage of the DOMA Act, the Saints of Marriage Act, many years ago. So I feel very strong about both these. These are just fundamental truths that should guide us in much of what we do.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. Next question goes to Ron Simmons first. Ron, please tell us in your own words about what you feel are Sharia law issues in the United States, and what is your stand on informal implementation of Sharia law through the judicial system?
Well, and again, I'm certainly not a total expert on this, but I know that there are some justices out there that believe that you ought to let in some pockets where there is a high Muslim content, say in Detroit and other areas, that you ought to allow them to have some type of justice system that falls within their religious beliefs, and I'm 100% against that. You can see what some of the other countries around the world that have tried to do that and how that's worked out. It's created anarchy. And we are a rule of laws under our Constitution, period. If you want to be here, that's what we follow. You don't have to be here if you don't want to, but if you want to be here, we need to be ruled only by our Constitution, the laws that came out of that.
Yeah. I applaud that as well. I'd like to just add to what he said. You know, you can take the Sharia law issue a little bit too lightly. There is a real movement afoot to edge this in under the nose of the tent. And through all kinds of subtle means, there are people in our country that are trying to implement this. This is a terrorist action, if you ask me. We need to be very careful that we don't let anything like it, anything that's similar to it. We don't want the tiniest little particle to penetrate any portion of our country. That's something we need to fear and fight against so strongly.
Everyone, I'm sure, has in their pocket something similar to this, and it's a coin. On that coin, it quite simply says, "In God we trust." And in God we trust is not someone else's God, it's the God that was by Christian Judeo principles. And on my worst day, I would not allow anything to circumvent "In God we trust," our God. Y'all are here, we started this with a prayer tonight. That's pretty significant. So just remember, in God we trust, our God.
Thank you, very good. And Mike, in what way can Texas nullify Obamacare?
I've thought about this. A federally mandated law needs to be fought in every possible way it can. We're currently suing against it in the United States Supreme Court. We need to have more lawsuits against it, not just one. I believe that the House of Representatives and the Senate of Texas should pass a resolution that they view this law as unconstitutional, and that the state of Texas has no desire or plans to implement it in the state. We just need to fight this at the border with everything we have. We cannot allow it to come in to our state under any circumstances or any portion of it.
The Declaration of Independence is quite clear. It says the pursuit of happiness. Not everyone's going to be happy with their health care, but it's not the federal government's responsibility to tell us how we're to receive our health care,